At a luxurious party held in a high-class hotel in the heart of the dazzling city, the space was filled with vibrant colors and melodious music. Yet within it lay an unusually intense tension. The spacious banquet hall with its high ceiling, large glass panels reflecting shimmering light to create a vivid picture blending modernity and solemnity, contributed every detail, from the sparkling crystal chandeliers to the exquisitely decorated banquet tables into the magnificent tableau of the night. However, amid the guests' joy and excitement, an unsettling feeling crept through the space like the whispered voice of destiny. In the midst of the bustling crowd, Jessica Taylor, the successful woman, wife of David Taylor, stood alone in the corner of the room. Her eyes were gentle, warm, and always held a belief in love and kinship. But in that moment, everything seemed to shift unexpectedly. She wore an elegant blue evening gown, her hair neatly tied up, and her rosy lips reminiscent of a flower's petals, all creating the image of a perfect, respectable woman in the eyes of friends and colleagues. However, inside Jessica's soul, a storm of emotions was quietly about to erupt. As the sound of lively laughter echoed throughout the banquet hall, Jessica's gaze suddenly fell upon a scene that made her heart freeze. In the midst of the crowd, no place could hide the painful truth. Her dearest friend, Amanda Stevens, was passionately embracing and exchanging fervent kisses with Jessica's husband, David Taylor. That image struck like an unforeseeable shock, blowing away all the trust and hope that Jessica had nurtured for years. Amanda, with her alluring beauty and radiant smile, once regarded as a symbol of grace and charm, now appeared in a completely opposite context, transformed into the betrayer who made everything so tangled. In that moment, as Jessica's eyes suddenly revealed deep-seated pain, a glass of red wine placed on the banquet table no longer seemed as dazzling as before. At that very moment, the wine glass was knocked over, shattering on the glossy wooden floor, and from that, a small drop of blood appeared on Jessica's hand, as an indelible sign of the shattered trust, of the love that was once abundant. Those droplets of blood, though just a small detail, became a symbol of the pain that could never be erased, of a fate determined by the betrayal of the one she had trusted most. Every second that passed in that moment, the air in the banquet hall seemed to freeze, leaving only the sighs of fate and the stupefied looks of those who dared not speak a word. Jessica stood there, amid the dense crowd, yet felt as if she were lost in a sea of people. The chaos of emotions interwoven with pain, shock, and despair seeped into every thought, every beat of her heart. In that moment, she could only pause, as if time had stopped flowing, to witness the horrifying truth gradually revealed. The laughter around her became distant and meaningless, leaving only sadness and loss reflected in her eyes. The atmosphere in the banquet hall suddenly grew stifling as people began to realize that something was terribly wrong. The gazes of some guests turned blank, worried and confused. Meanwhile, Jessica, with her heavy soul and silent tears falling on her cheek, seemed to be swept up in an inescapable emotional storm. She tried to hide her pain with a weak smile, but her sorrowful eyes and the tears that held everything within them became unmistakably clear. While everyone still tried to maintain a polite appearance, Jessica's eyes seemed to tell a silent tale of sorrow. She wondered if the love and trust she had once cherished had now become only faint illusions, a shattered dream in the face of the ruthless power of betrayal. That shocking event was like a violent storm, disrupting everything, turning the strongest beliefs into fragments that were difficult to piece back together. The entire banquet hall seemed to sink into a gloomy atmosphere, where every glance and every gesture carried fear and insecurity. The formal ambiance of the event suddenly turned cold, haunted by the painful truth that Jessica had just witnessed. Every detail, from the shimmering lights to the melodious music, now appeared to be nothing more than a backdrop that could not conceal the pain of a betrayed woman. In that fateful moment, Jessica Taylor seemed to be caught in an unawakeable nightmare. She stood silently among the crowd, her eyes following Amanda and David in speechless horror, while inside her, a surge of pain, disappointment, and fading trust overwhelmed her. She felt as if everything around her had lost its meaning, leaving behind only a dark, anguished memory, the memory of the betrayal by her dearest friend, the one with whom she had shared so many memories and trust. The dim lights of the hotel could not hide that sorrow and disappointment. The background music played in the space, but for Jessica, it was only the echoing sounds of a once happy past now torn apart. Everything became sluggish, as if fate had paused in that moment to witness the shattering of trust and love. She stood there, without a word, without any gesture of defiance, only silence. The silence of a broken soul, of a woman betrayed by life. The image of the spilled wine glass, the small drop of blood on Jessica's hand, became poignant exclamation marks, reminding her that even in the happiest moments, betrayal can strike suddenly, stripping away all trust and dreams. The night passed. The laughter of the guests still echoed, but for Jessica, all that remained were distant sounds, like the echo of an unending nightmare. She left the crowd, stepping out into the vast corridor of the hotel, where the streetlights still tried to shine into the darkness of the night. Inside her, the pain and loss grew with every step, as if each step was a further part of herself being lost. The painful reflections, the silent tears falling as Jessica departed from the party, gradually became an indelible image, deeply etched in her mind, like an unhealed wound. She spoke not a word, no sighs or overwhelming tears, only a heavy silence, carrying the sorrow and disappointment of a betrayed love. That night, within her, there was not only the pain of loss, but also the helplessness before the unchangeable, before the fragments of trust that had once shone brilliantly. Immediately after the heartbreaking scene occurred, Jessica Taylor's story became more complex than ever. The woman who had once trusted completely in kinship and marriage, now stood at a crossroads in life, amid the storm of emotions and loss. Jessica was not only the gentle wife, the one who always cared for her family with all her heart, but also the symbol of unwavering faith in love and friendship. However, the betrayal by Amanda Stevens, a longtime close friend, completely shook all those values. Jessica once regarded Amanda as a sister, a companion, sharing many sweet memories. Amanda Stevens, with her graceful beauty and charming smile, was admired not only for her appearance but also for her elegance and intelligence. Although always shrouded in a bit of mystery, to Jessica, Amanda was always a loyal friend, someone she could trust completely. But now, the reflections of that party night revealed a cruel truth. Amanda was not merely a friend, but also the one who had betrayed Jessica's trust by engaging in an illicit affair with David Taylor, her husband. David Taylor, the gentlemanly husband who always appeared considerate, refined, and full of care for the family, harbored countless untold secrets. The appearance of David with Amanda amid the crowd, exchanging passionate kisses, as if breaking all the promises and dreams of a happy marriage. For Jessica, that betrayal was not simply the loss of trust in her husband, but also the shattering of the entire value system she had built since her youth, the belief in love, friendship, and honesty. Before those painful images, Jessica could not believe that everything she once cherished had now turned into fragments. She recalled the warm moments with her family, the nights spent chatting and laughing under the warm glow of candles. And now, all those memories seemed like distant dreams, dispersed by the cold wind of betrayal. Jessica's pain came not only from the loss of her husband, but also from the betrayal by the friend she once loved and treasured. She felt as if she had been struck directly in the heart by the dagger of the betrayer, and every beat of her heart resonated with the mournful cry of a love that had been cruelly betrayed. Amid the storm of emotions, Jessica gradually realized that, beneath the glamorous exterior of a perfect marriage, lay unfillable fragments of trust. She wondered whether everything was merely an illusion she had created, or if this harsh truth had been silently waiting for a long time. Every memory, every moment with her family, now seemed to carry the weight of pain, of betrayal, and irreparable loss. Jessica's eyes, which had once shone with trust and hope, now held only silent tears, reflecting the deep sorrow of a wounded heart. In that moment, Jessica not only faced the betrayal of a close friend but also confronted the truth that the marriage she had once trusted was a path filled with the pitfalls of deceit. The contrast between the values she had built and the painful reality she had to endure plunged her into an inescapable storm of emotions. Every breath, every heartbeat reminded her that love and honesty are inherently fragile, easily damaged by the fragments of betrayal. Jessica stood there, in the empty space of her thoughts, trying to find herself amid the chaotic sea of emotions. She quietly sat down, her heavy eyes still glimmering with a spark of trust despite the betrayal. In her mind, the sweet memories of the past intertwined with the present pain to form a somber picture, where every piece of memory recounted a story of shattered trust. The betrayal by Amanda and David, like sharp knives, had severed the connection between the happy past and the bitter present. That sense of loss was not only Jessica's personal pain, but also a warning about the truth that, in life, not everything happens the way we expect. Honesty and trust, no matter how precious, can easily be eroded by human acts of betrayal. And it was in that moment that Jessica began to realize that, to overcome the storm of betrayal, she needed to find herself again, to rediscover her trust in herself and in life. Amid the storm of emotions and pain, Jessica stood up, determined not to let that betrayal defeat her. She knew that, no matter how much everything might change, she had to hold fast to her belief in the value of love and friendship, the values she once believed were the foundation of a happy life. But now, those values had been shaken, tested by the dark truths she never wanted to face. Although she knew that the road ahead would be filled with difficulties and pain, Jessica decided that, even if she had to face the consequences of betrayal, she would never let her trust be completely extinguished. She silently promised herself that, no matter how many pains or losses she endured, she would keep moving forward, finding herself in every step of life. The betrayal by Amanda and David, though it caused her extreme pain, also served as a motivation for her to understand that only through harsh trials can one mature and learn valuable lessons about perseverance and self-awareness. In that quiet moment, amid unending thoughts and pain, Jessica gradually realized that life is never as perfect as we once dreamed. Every person, though they may appear strong and confident on the outside, also has moments of weakness, times when their heart is broken and their soul weary from fate's betrayals. And it is in those very moments that trust and self-awareness become what helps one stand up and find their own way of life. With a heavy yet unyielding soul, Jessica slowly walked through the quiet space of the room, where every little corner reminded her of past memories, of a time when happiness was but a thing of the past. She knew that to overcome this emotional storm, she needed time to heal the wounds of her heart, to gradually rediscover her trust in life and in herself. And no matter how many tears were shed, no matter how much pain remained unsoothed, Jessica remained steadfast in her determination to find the light amidst the dark night of betrayal and loss. In the silence of the dark night, as the city continued to bustle outside, Jessica sat there, her eyes watching the faint rays of light through the window frame, as if searching for a sign of hope. She did not need explanations, nor did she need anyone to fully understand her pain. Just a small flame in her heart, enough to light the path to freedom, to a new future where trust and love would be restored. And in that moment, amid the storm of emotions and ultimate pain, Jessica began her journey to rediscover herself. A journey fraught with hardships, but also filled with hope for a brighter tomorrow. In the early days after that horrific night party, Jessica Taylor still could not shake the image of that night from her mind. She began to realize that amidst the calmest moments of daily life, there always exist small clues, the silent signs of a mystery gradually being revealed. Right from the foggy mornings, when the first light of dawn seeped through the window frame of her small apartment, Jessica couldn't help but recall the horrifying moments when she witnessed the scene of betrayal. In her mind, The mysterious phone calls from David and Amanda still echoed like the whispers of an inevitable destiny. Every time the phone rang, Jessica could not help but remember the late-night calls, the boisterous yet mysterious voices, as if something was being hidden behind every whisper. In her eyes, every little detail became too clear. The way David and Amanda exchanged troubled glances, the way they sneered, or the overly intimate gestures that Jessica tried to ignore. She once thought that she was only imagining things that were not real, but gradually, the gloomy atmosphere that enveloped her soul made every sign come vividly to life. On an unusually quiet afternoon when Jessica was sitting silently in the living room, her phone suddenly rang with a strange message notification from an unidentified number. On the screen, the cold words appeared. "Do not let these things be revealed. We all know the past cannot be forgotten." That message was like a small shock, but enough to make her heart beat faster, arousing within her an indescribable shiver. She clutched her phone tightly, trying to reassure herself that it was just a tease, but each word in the message pierced her soul, reminding her of the painful memories she had tried to bury. Not only in messages, these small clues also appeared in every ordinary moment. When Jessica was taking a walk in the small garden behind her house, she suddenly recalled the way David's eyes sparkled with something unusual every time he spoke with Amanda. Although she tried to tell herself that it was just a coincidence, every laugh, every accidental touch between them was like a signal that something had long been secretly orchestrated. In the long nights when sleep refused to come, Jessica kept recalling the voices of passers-by, the whisper of the wind, as if carrying an unspoken warning that the past can never be completely forgotten, no matter how hard we try. Jessica's heart was immersed in fierce contradictions. On one side was the strong belief she had in friendship and family. On the other was the fear of losing everything she had nurtured over the years. Every time she recalled the image of Amanda and David together, she felt a storm of emotions, intermingling pain, betrayal, and a sense of helplessness before fate. She knew that, no matter how much she tried to hide it, those unusual signs could not escape the attention of a sensitive heart like hers. In her mind, the mysterious phone calls, the troubled glances, and the intimate gestures between the two were not just scattered small details, but rather pieces of a dark picture that were gradually coming into sharp focus. Each piece carried an unspeakable message, reminding her that, no matter how strong her faith might be, the past and the truth always have a way of returning, even in the most subtle forms. When Jessica realized that, beyond the noisy chatter of daily life, there was a world of deceit and betrayal silently at work, she felt as if she were being swept into an endless nightmare. The atmosphere became heavy. Every whisper, every small sign seemed to carry a warning that, no matter how harsh the truth might be, it will never be concealed forever. Amidst the storm of emotions and insecurity, Jessica could not find a support, a belief to reassure her that her life was still solid. In the quiet moments of the evening, as the light faded and she had to face her relentless thoughts, she wondered if perhaps she had been living in a world of illusions, or if those suspicious signs were only the prophecy of a dark destiny that was about to come. As the days passed, Jessica gradually realized that the pain of betrayal did not only come from losing trust in those dear to her, but also from the agony of not being able to understand the true nature of the relationships she once held dear. Every time she recalled those mysterious phone calls, every time Amanda's and David's eyes met meaningfully, she felt as if she were sinking into a deep abyss of sorrow and despair. The surrounding space gradually grew darker, as if every corner of the apartment, every sound of wind blowing through the window, carried the whisper of a past that Jessica could never forget. Those small clues were like the scattered pieces of a large puzzle, yet sufficient to make her realize that, beneath the facade of a perfect life, there were always hidden secrets filled with guilt and betrayal. Every night, as the city lights began to fade and darkness descended, Jessica sank into her thoughts. She wondered whether she had been living in a nightmare, or if those unusual signs were only a part of a destiny she could not escape. Threatening messages, secretive calls, and the troubled glances of the one she loved had become indelible memories, like a poignant reminder that, No matter how much one tries to run away, the past always finds a way to cling on. And so, on a moonless night, when there was only the sound of the wind and the sighs of her own breath, Jessica felt that those small signs were not merely random manifestations of unrest, but were clues to a horrific truth that was gradually being unveiled. She realized that, in this life, nothing is as it appears. What she once believed in, what she once loved, were now nothing but illusions, wrapped in the veneer of betrayal and deceit. In Jessica's mind, the fear of losing her family and the trust and friendship grew even stronger. She felt every heartbeat, as if each beat was a poignant reminder of the painful memories she could never forget. And it was precisely at that moment, between the darkness of truth and the sparkling light of hope, that Jessica realized that, no matter how many unusual signs there were, the truth would eventually expose everything. And she, no matter how painful it might be, must stand up to face it. On a gloomy afternoon after the rain, when raindrops still fell lightly on the window and the atmosphere outside grew increasingly damp, Jessica accidentally discovered something she had never imagined. While tidying up the drawer of her desk, where she had stored the memories and important documents of her life, an old file suddenly appeared among the scattered pieces of paper. Those papers were meticulously recorded, containing faded photos and small writings, but enough to reveal a secret that she once thought was only a distant story of the past. When Jessica opened the file, her heart seemed to stop in a moment of silence. The photos capturing secret meetings, the unspoken rendezvous between Amanda Stevens and David Taylor from bygone years, appeared before her eyes like pieces of a dark story that she had never dreamed of. Each photo, each line of text was like a small piece, gradually assembling into the gruesome picture of betrayal, of a connection that went beyond the limits of friendship and marriage. In that lonely moment, Jessica felt that everything she had once trusted had now become a long-standing deception. She was horrified, her heart thumping strongly as she realized that behind the refined, thoughtful appearance of her husband, there existed a close connection that she had been unaware of. She recalled the mysterious phone calls, the furtive glances, and even the overly intimate gestures between David and Amanda, all of which gradually became clear like an undeniable, horrific picture. Without hesitation, Jessica sought a private moment to confront the truth. In a quiet afternoon, when the surroundings only contained the sound of raindrops and the gentle breeze blowing through the rows of trees, she sat down at the old desk, trembling hands opening the file. She turned over each page slowly, trying to understand each character, each image printed on the yellowed pages of time, each photo capturing a smile, a gaze, and the warm moments once shared between Amanda and David was like pieces of a story that she never wanted to hear. When reading the notes about the secret meetings, the clandestine appointments under dim lights, the whispered words exchanged in the dark, Jessica felt as if everything around her began to spin. Her mind was overwhelmed by the terrible truth that all she had lived, all she had believed, were now mere illusions woven by the close connection between her beloved husband and her trusted best friend. In that shocked moment, as Jessica tried to take a deep breath to regain some courage, she suddenly heard in the room the voice of David, a voice from a casual conversation that she inadvertently eavesdropped on. David, in that dialogue, had unintentionally, yet his words subtly revealed the close connection with Amanda. His voice, always warm and considerate, now carried a tone that was cold and full of contradictions, making all the happy memories before seem distant. Disappearing under the dust of deception, the space seemed to slow down, David's voice resonating in the empty space of the room, making Jessica clearly perceive every word, every meaning that she had never heard before. Those words were like fragments of a tragic story, gradually revealing a truth that she once thought existed only in nightmares. She heard gentle words, but laden with the weight of destiny, causing her to wonder whether she had been living in a world of false promises, where everything was just pieces of an incredibly horrific picture of betrayal. Jessica's heart raced, her eyes suddenly welling up as she realized that everything she had once trusted had now been eroded by the betrayal of Amanda and David. She felt as if she had been torn away from reality, as though the happy memories of the past were now only yellowed pages, full of the signatures of deception. The pain spread throughout her body, making her unable to stop thinking about the question: how long had she been living in a prolonged deceit, and would that truth ever be fully exposed? In the tense moments that passed, Jessica could only stand silently in the room, her eyes fixed on those papers, as if each signature, each photo was an indictment of the past. She felt the panic, the shock mixed with deep sadness, as she realized that the things she once considered the solid foundation of her life had now been torn apart by an undeniable truth. In that silence, the space seemed to share in Jessica's pain. The sound of the rain falling outside the window was like the lament of the past, reminding her that no matter how many sweet words or promises were made, betrayal always silently exists, waiting to snatch away everything precious. She felt each raindrop as if they were fragments of a fading past, intermingled with the pain of the present. When the sunset began to descend, the weak light filtering through the window frame, Jessica stood up, her hands still trembling as she clutched the file, a vivid evidence of betrayal. She said nothing, only letting the tears silently fall on her cheeks, as if each tear told a tragic story of betrayed trust. She knew that, in that moment, everything had changed forever. The truth, no matter how painful, had been revealed, and now she had to face it, even if the pain might break her heart. Within Jessica, chaotic thoughts mixed with sadness and a sense of helplessness became too overwhelming. She wondered whether she had spent all those years living in a world of false dreams, where friendship and marriage were only faint illusions, easily fading under the power of betrayal. All the sweet memories were now only fragments of the past, pasted onto the wall of a harsh reality. And so amid the storm of emotions, Jessica had nothing left but the emptiness of her heart, a feeling of being lost in the sea of truth and deception. She understood that, from now on, nothing would ever be the same. The betrayal of Amanda and David not only shattered her trust, but also opened a new, dark chapter in her life, a chapter of mysteries, of truths that could never be justified. In the quiet space of the empty room, where the sound of her own breathing echoed, Jessica suddenly felt a new strength, a strength of awakening, of the courage to face everything. She knew that, no matter how painful it was, she could not turn back. The truth had been revealed, and now every decision would belong to her. Every step thereafter, every breath Jessica took was like carrying a vow to never give up. A vow that, no matter how many pieces of the past were shattered, she would still stand firm, reclaiming herself amid the storm of betrayal. In the darkness of that room, the faint light of truth still flickered, like a reminder that, no matter how much everything may be eroded by time, the true essence of humanity, of love, and of honesty still exists. In those fateful moments, amid the falling rain and the unnamed darkness, Jessica stepped out of the room, carrying within her the fragments of an unforgettable past. She said nothing, only letting the silence of her being speak for everything. And in that moment, even knowing that the road ahead would be full of hardships, she was ready to face everything, to find herself again, to reclaim the burning trust that once blazed in her heart. In the gloomy atmosphere after the storm of betrayal, Jessica Taylor was immersed in pain and perplexity over the fragments of the story she had just experienced. Without further hesitation, she decided that, in order to understand the cause of all these dark events, she had to begin the journey of seeking the truth. That night, when everyone around seemed to have fallen asleep, Jessica quietly left the luxurious room where she had just witnessed a ruthless betrayal, carrying in her heart an unwavering determination. She knew that, behind the glamorous facade of lavish parties, there was a world full of mysteries that she needed to explore. A world where every clue, every small sign concealed the truth behind the tangled relationship between Amanda Stevens and David Taylor. With a heavy heart and a tumultuous mind, Jessica began to collect every fragment of memory, every piece of information left behind after the storm of emotions. She poured all her energy into researching, reading reports, reviewing old photographs, and cross-referencing the words and gestures that had occurred in the preceding periods. Every detail, no matter how small, became a precious piece in the overall picture of the story she was gradually assembling. Jessica's quest for the truth was not only the journey of a woman seeking to reaffirm her beliefs, but also a grueling internal battle between her yearning for justice and the fear that this truth might cause her to lose what remained of herself. In the following days, Jessica incessantly moved through every street, every hidden corner of the modern city, where she hoped to find scraps of paper, clues proving the early orchestration of the forbidden relationship between Amanda and David. The atmosphere in her apartment was filled with notebooks, old newspapers, and online information that she had carefully collected. Every detail was meticulously analyzed by her, as she tried to peel away the layers of deceit in a world where betrayal and deception always seemed to hide behind the elegant and dignified appearance of high society. Amid the storm of contemplation and skepticism, Jessica decided to turn to someone she trusted, a private detective with a reputable name in high society who had solved many complex cases. The detective, with a cold face but sharp eyes, quickly realized that the connection between Amanda and David was not merely a matter of emotion, but had been orchestrated from the very beginning, with details arranged in a sophisticated manner. The fragments of information that the detective provided to Jessica opened a new door in her journey of seeking the truth, revealing that everything up to now seemed to have been deliberately calculated and arranged. But the deeper Jessica delved, the more she felt as if she were plunging into an endless abyss of secrets and conspiracies. While investigating, as she gradually pieced together scattered memories into a panoramic picture, a strange phone call from an unidentified number rang out in the dead of night. The cold voice of a stranger said, "Don't dig too deep. The truth might leave you unrecoverable." That warning struck Jessica like sharp needles piercing her mind, making her fear intermingled with a determination stronger than ever. But even though the warning made her heart tremble, Jessica was not swayed, for within her, the burning desire to uncover the truth and achieve justice surged relentlessly. She knew that, no matter how many risks and dangers lay ahead, only the truth could heal the wounds of the heart and help her rediscover her true self. In the long, drawn-out hours after the storm, Jessica continuously worked with a tense mindset, her eyes never leaving every tiny detail on each sheet of paper, every image, and even the scattered words she received from those directly connected with Amanda and David. Each piece of information made her even more perplexed, yet it also confirmed that everything up to now was not mere random coincidence. Behind the relationship she once believed in lay a sophisticated conspiracy, a meticulously orchestrated scheme that no one had ever fully revealed. As the nights passed, when the city was immersed in the silence of sleep, Jessica stayed awake, her eyes fixed on the computer screen, where she continuously scrolled through old news lines, vintage newspaper pages, and even indirect conversations from those who were well aware of the matter. In every number, every detail, she seemed to hear the whisper of the past echoing, the lament of those who had once endured similar pain. That mysterious warning was like an ominous portent, reminding her that the truth she was about to uncover might change her forever. Not only a change of spirit, but also a turning point in life, where everything up to now would fade before the undeniable power of the truth. The deeper she investigated, the more Jessica felt as if she were stepping into a dark labyrinth, where every step carried a new risk, a secret yet to be unveiled. The fear of being unable to recover after knowing the truth made her even more determined that, no matter how troubled the road ahead, she would never turn back. Because within her, the belief in justice and her own worth was the only thing that could keep her steadfast against the storm of fate. And although there were moments when Jessica felt as if she were falling into an abyss of loneliness, of unending pain, Her determination to uncover the truth had become a powerful driving force to keep her moving forward, step by step, touching every piece of the story that she needed to assemble. The pieces gradually appeared under Jessica's skillful hands, like small signs indicating that the connection between Amanda and David was not just a simple romantic affair, but also contained deep conspiracies orchestrated from very early on. She discovered secret meetings, blurry photographs taken in private moments that perhaps no one knew about. Each detail made her increasingly suspect that something terrible was quietly about to happen, and that she was the only one who could unveil the truth. In every long night, when the faint light of dawn had not yet broken, Jessica once again faced herself with her fears, painful memories, and unnamed loneliness. She told herself that no matter how much this truth might hurt her, only by facing it could she find a way out for herself. And from there, her investigation journey gradually became a journey of rediscovering her value, of regaining faith in life and in herself. When the pieces of the story were gradually assembled into an overall haunting picture, Jessica was unexpectedly shocked to discover a truth that froze her heart. While she was busy with papers, old photographs, and the scattered notes she had collected from all sources, a horrifying surprise appeared, like a piece that could never fit with everything she had ever known. Jessica realized that the relationship between her and Amanda Stevens, the close friend she once considered as family, was not merely a friendship, but also concealed a tragic past, a painful secret from childhood. In those old pages, in the faded photographs that Jessica happened to find, it was revealed that from a very early time, the two women, Jessica and Amanda, had shared moments of sorrow, events that could only occur in tragic circumstances. The sad memories, the tears, and the laments had been deeply imprinted in both of their souls, creating an unbreakable bond. Through every line of writing, every image, Jessica realized that their connection was not simply friendship, but also the result of a shared catastrophe, a tragedy that time could never erase. This left her horrified, her heart trembling with old memories that she had tried to bury deep within. But the heartbreaking truth did not stop there. In the process of her investigation, Jessica also discovered another secret, a secret that made everything even more brutal and unbearable than ever before. She realized that David Taylor, the elegant husband she once trusted, had concealed a secret about his family origins. Old documents, faded family photographs, and discreet notes revealed that David not only came from a prestigious family, but was also closely linked to a long-standing feud between two families. This secret was not only personal, but also contained grudges, remnants of the past that Amanda Stevens had silently vowed to avenge. The connection between the two families, long orchestrated with great subtlety, now unfolded before Jessica's eyes like a dark piece, shattering all the trust she had once strived to build. As Jessica tried to comprehend the truth, she further discovered that the real motive behind Amanda's actions was not merely passion or a momentary emotion. Amanda Stevens, with her naturally charming and graceful appearance, had secretly harbored a deep-seated grudge, a grudge built from painful memories of the past, from losses that could never be healed. Not only did she manipulate the emotions of those around her, but Amanda also used all her strength to control the painful past, with the aim of exacting revenge and recreating power in her own way. Every action, every word from Amanda gradually revealed a meticulously devised plan, orchestrated from a very early stage. A plan aimed at turning Jessica and David into pawns in the dark game of power that she had silently set up. The blend of family secrets, tragic pasts, and long-standing grudges made Jessica's heart even heavier with pain. Every sheet of paper, every photograph she flipped through, served as undeniable evidence showing that, all along, everything she had believed in was just an illusion woven by those who manipulated power. In that moment of shock, Jessica felt as if everything around her suddenly fell silent, leaving only the resounding beating of her heart, echoing with the whispers of an unceasing past. She She wondered whether she herself was a victim in this cruel game or merely a small pawn being controlled by unchangeable fates. Before the ruthless discoveries, Jessica stood silently in the dark room, her eyes following every bold letter on the files, every faded image of the past. The pain, betrayal, and shattered trust poured out, making her feel as if she were sinking into the abyss of despair. Yet along with that pain, a spark of resilience surged within Jessica's soul, a strong determination that would not allow her to give up. She understood that, to free herself from the domination of the past and from cruel conspiracies, she had to face every truth, no matter how painful it might be. Those heartbreaking revelations were like sharp needles slicing through every piece of the past, exposing the truth that, since she was very young, she had been drawn into a power game of which she was completely unaware. The memories of the past, of forgotten moments of happiness, intermingled with inexhaustible pain, now became living evidence that everything had been predetermined, and that she was merely a character in a cruel script of fate. In every old photograph, in every faded note, there lay the vow of an indelible past, of a silent grudge, and of a troublesome family secret. Amid the turmoil of her mind being torn apart by undeniable truths, she suddenly realized that the most painful truth was the one she had refused to acknowledge, that Amanda Stevens, her close friend, was indeed the soul harboring the desire for revenge, the one who had silently orchestrated everything to control the past and build a new power based on the pain of others. Amanda's true motive was not simply passion, but also a ruthless scheme for revenge, a plan woven from dark fragments of memories and losses that could never be soothed. She understood that, with every detail revealed, the truth became so painful and brutal that it made her heart seem to melt. In that decisive moment, as every piece of the past gradually came to light, Jessica felt as if she were standing at the brink of a nightmare with no escape. She stood there, between the darkness of the room and the faint light of truth, with pain and betrayal filling every corner of her soul. But along with the pain, she also recognized the hidden strength within herself, the strength born from unhealed wounds, from the belief in freedom and the yearning to reclaim her true self. She told herself that, even if this truth were to shatter her completely, only by facing it could she regain control of her own life. With renewed determination and a heart scarred by pain, Jessica decided that from now on, she would never allow anyone or any conspiracy to blur her self-worth. Every sheet of paper, every photograph, every whisper of the past now became the motivation for her to rise up, so that she could begin to rebuild her life after the storm of betrayal. Even though the road ahead was fraught with obstacles and dangers, Jessica knew that only the truth, no matter how painful, could free her from the domination of the past and open the door to freedom. In that fateful moment, amid the darkness of secrets and the faint light of belief, Jessica felt as if she were reborn. Every threat, every piece of the past was not only evidence of the wounds, but also a reminder that, in life, nothing is permanent. Nothing is unchangeable if we are brave enough to face it. And now, amidst the fragments of the past and the unhealed pain, Jessica decided to move forward, to walk on the path of truth, of freedom, and of unyielding belief. In the secluded private room, where the gentle light from the ceiling lamp created vague streaks of illumination, Jessica Taylor had arranged everything in the way she deemed necessary to confront the dark secrets long buried. That space, tastefully decorated with abstract paintings and a sleek black wooden table, was where every lie and sin would be exposed to the light. She invited Amanda Stevens and David Taylor without any prior notice, creating an atmosphere as tense as a string drawn to its limit. With every passing moment, the heavy breathing and the suspicious glances exchanged made the space extraordinarily oppressive. Jessica, in her minimalist yet elegant dress, stood in the center of the room with a cold demeanor and sharp eyes. She knew that this was the decisive moment, the point at which all secrets, all accusations, and the fragments of the past would have no place to hide. Amanda and David, two people once regarded as the epitome of friendship and a perfect marriage, now stood before her in a state of confusion, worry, and unable to conceal the fear of the impending interrogation. The tension filled the air, and the silence seemed as heavy as an entire dark sky. Jessica began, her voice deep yet full of power. "I have been waiting for this moment for a long time." Those words echoed like the reverberation of the past, carrying with them all the pain and loss. Amanda tried to find an excuse, but her eyes could not hide the trembling, the slight glimmer of remorse. David, the elegant husband who always harbored conflicting secrets, stood next to Amanda, trying to avoid Jessica's gaze. Jessica's voice rang out again. "Nothing can be hidden forever. Your secrets have been covered up, and now I demand the truth." Those accusations were like sharp needles, piercing through the layers of sweet words that had once echoed in happier days. Amanda burst out, her voice trembling. I never meant to hurt you, Jessica. Everything got out of our control." But those words only made the atmosphere even heavier, as if each piece of truth began to shatter under the weight of the accusations. After a moment of silence, David also spoke up. "We tried to keep everything in our own way, but I know there were times when we were wrong." That answer rang out like a half-hearted confession, yet it could not hide the guilt and betrayal. In that moment, all of Amanda's excuses and regrets seemed to be overshadowed by Jessica's coldness and decisiveness. The atmosphere in the room grew even heavier as everyone began to share accusations and justifications for their actions. Every word, every exchanged glance was like a piece of a sorrowful painting that time was gradually revealing. The accusations were not merely words, they were echoes of buried memories, of shattered beliefs. Jessica looked at Amanda, her eyes cold yet tinged with regret. "I trusted you, and you betrayed that trust." Her voice echoed throughout the space, causing everyone to fall silent, listening to words that could not be ignored. In the midst of the fierce argument, the emotions of all three surged like an uncontrollable tempest. Accusations flew with every breath, and at that climactic moment, the heavy atmosphere of truth began to seep into every corner of the secluded room. Each person felt the weight of the past, the fragments of love and trust crumbling before their eyes. And then, in a fateful moment, Amanda, with a troubled expression and a half-faltering voice, suddenly swung her hand forcefully toward Jessica's face. That sudden and unforeseeable action, like an unimaginable shock, caused everything in the room to freeze for a devastating moment. The sound of the impact reverberated throughout the space, and in that instant, all eyes turned toward Jessica, the one who had just been struck by Amanda's forceful push. The physical pain mixed with the emotional agony made Jessica stagger for a moment, but she quickly regained her resolute posture, her eyes never leaving Amanda. Amanda's extreme action not only displayed her half-hearted remorse, but also opened a new turning point in Jessica's life. A turning point that forced her to choose between forgiveness and revenge, between trying to extinguish the past and moving toward the future. That moment was indelibly etched in the memory of everyone present. The time when every truth, no matter how painful, was laid bare in the light. The atmosphere in the room became stifling, heavy with emotion and accusations, with confessions from the past that could never be buried forever. Every breath, every passing second served as a reminder that, no matter how many years pass, betrayal and the fragments of trust still exist, waiting for the moment to be revealed. Jessica stood there, amidst the storm of emotions, her eyes constantly seeking an answer, a liberation from the shattered pieces of the past. Amanda's action had opened a door that could never be closed, forcing her to face the truth that had long been buried. She looked at Amanda, then shifted her gaze to David, as if demanding that they confront the consequences of their own actions. The atmosphere in the room now seemed laden with broken vows, with promises shattered, and the silence of each person appeared as a declaration that fate could never be reversed. As the dim light in the room gradually faded, Jessica, Amanda, and David still stood there, amid the tense atmosphere of truth and pain. She knew that this moment would become a turning point in life, a turning point that would determine the fate of all. The tears, the sighs, all blended together to create a symphony of dissolution, of betrayed trust, and of a heart that could never be the same again. When the storm of emotions gradually subsided, Jessica Taylor stood alone in the vast space of the room, where every sound of confrontation now remained only as echoes of the past. She looked around, her gaze tracking every fragment of accusations, of the painful images that everyone had just experienced. In Jessica's mind, a fateful decision was gradually taking shape. A decision that was not only the end of a dark chapter, but also the beginning of a new life, freer and more complete. Even though her heart was still aching from unhealed wounds, Jessica had decided that she would not allow the past to regain control of her life. She knew that to rediscover herself, she had to sever all toxic connections. She had to leave behind the context of betrayal and make way for a new future, where trust and freedom would be restored. In the light of the early morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the window, Jessica stepped out of the room like a new woman, one who had reasserted her self-worth after irreparable losses. In her mind, the past was now nothing more than fragments, sorrowful memories that she no longer wished to imprison her. Jessica's choice, although soaked with tears and pain, contained the power of freedom and the yearning to live fully. She abandoned all toxic relationships with Amanda and David, relationships that had once been a source of motivation and also the origin of pain. The betrayal, although it had shaken her to the core, was also a reminder that to live true to oneself, she had to forsake the past and move forward on a new path. The consequences of acts of betrayal could never be hidden forever. Amanda Stevens and David Taylor, after the truth was exposed to the light, had no place to hide. They were forced to face criticism and social isolation, as everyone realized that beneath their naturally elegant and charming appearances lay a dark story of deceit and betrayal. The relationships around them gradually disintegrated, and the atmosphere of trust, once carefully built, now remained only as the ashes of a past that could never return. Meanwhile, Jessica began the arduous process of inner recovery. With each passing day, she learned to confront the pain and the ruthless memories, slowly erasing the scars on her heart. She sought out simple joys, moments of tranquility to help her heart heal gradually. Those slow but determined steps gradually affirmed that, no matter how many losses there were, her faith in self-control would never be extinguished. The memories of a once happy past were now only faint shadows, but they had taught Jessica valuable lessons about honesty, self-respect, and the value of freedom. She told herself that, to truly heal, she needed to confront that pain, accept it as an inseparable part of her journey of growth. And through that, she realized that every tear, every pain was evidence of an inner strength, a strength that only those who have suffered can understand. With an unwavering determination, Jessica began to rebuild her life. She decided to abandon all toxic connections, not allowing the past to bind the path of her future. With every step she took, she heard the call of freedom, the call of unfulfilled dreams, and the promises of a brighter tomorrow. She knew that, although the road ahead might be full of hardships and not without difficulties, only courage and perseverance could help her overcome every challenge. As the light of dawn gradually spread throughout the room, Jessica stood by the window, looking out with eyes filled with hope and determination. She had understood that, although the past might contain so much pain, it did not define who she was. The wounds of the heart would gradually heal, and through that, she would rediscover herself, a strong, self-reliant woman, full of faith in the future. Before Amanda's regret and David's failure to hide the truth, society gradually turned its back on them. They were forced to endure harsh condemnation, isolation, and the loss of honor. Their story became a harsh lesson for anyone who wished to use power to manipulate the fate of others. The truth, no matter how painful it was ultimately exposed, carrying with it the image of an unyielding punitive justice. In the process of healing, Jessica found solace in new friends, those who shared a belief in freedom and justice. She began to participate in community activities, where the wounded souls could find their own voice. Through that, she gradually rebuilt her faith in humanity, in the power of solidarity and compassion. With each passing day, the old wounds faded gradually, making way for scars, marks of a past that had passed, but also evidence of the strength to overcome every challenge. As the days continued to pass, Jessica gradually realized that the decision to leave the past was not only an act of liberating herself, but also a declaration for a new life. She was no longer the woman easily manipulated by toxic relationships, but had become a symbol of self-respect and inner strength. Every step she took, slow yet resolute, affirmed that freedom and happiness belong only to those who dare to break the chains of the past. In the quiet space of the new room, she chose to begin her new life. Jessica sat by her desk with a profound gaze. She neatly arranged her papers, her old memories, as if gathering every fragment of the past to build a more complete future. Every sheet of paper, every sticky note was evidence of the lessons learned, that no matter how much pain there was, only faith in oneself could help a person rise after every fall. In the gentle light of the morning, as the birdsong echoed outside the window, Jessica stepped out with a relieved yet thoughtful mood. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but nothing could stop the resilience of someone who had once been crushed by betrayal. Her steps gradually affirmed a clear message. Freedom and happiness belong only to those who dare to change their own fate. And so, after moments full of tears and pain, the story of Jessica Taylor not only ended with a farewell to the past, but also opened a new chapter. A chapter of freedom, of courage, and of faith in a brighter tomorrow. Before her, a new road opened, where every fragment of love eroded by time would become the foundation for new dreams, for a life no longer bound by the scars of betrayal. In the gentle sound of the wind carrying the fragrance of spring flowers, Jessica continued her journey, carrying with her faith and hope, ready to face every challenge. Although the past had left a deep mark of pain, it had also helped her grow and understand more clearly the value of freedom and self-respect. The betrayal by Amanda and David, although it had caused her immense pain, also opened the door for her to attain self-control and justice. With every step, Jessica was writing a new chapter of her life, a chapter in which she was no longer a victim of fate, but the master of her own destiny. She knew that, although the road ahead was still full of thorns, with faith in herself and her inner strength, every challenge could be overcome. Her recovery was not only the journey of a broken heart, but also the process of rebuilding faith in love, in life, and in herself. The painful memories, the tears shed, were now only marks of an unforgettable past, but also the motivation that propelled her forward. Jessica understood that, to rediscover freedom, she needed to forget the lies, the toxic connections, and accept that everyone has the right to live a full life in their own way. And in that moment, as the light of dawn appeared, Jessica decided she would never let the betrayal of the past dictate her destiny. On the road to freedom, as her footsteps echoed on sunlit streets, Jessica felt the relief of a soul set free. She knew that, although Amanda and David would have to face justice and isolation, it was her own choice, her courage, and her faith in a new future that were the ultimate victory. She became stronger, no longer allowing the wounds of the past to hinder her progress. And so, the story of Jessica Taylor officially turned to a new chapter, where she was no longer the one betrayed, but became a symbol of self-control, of resilience, and of the belief that, no matter how dark the past may be, the light of truth and freedom will ultimately shine through. She walked on, slowly but steadily, carrying in her heart the hope for a brighter tomorrow, for a future where everyone could freely choose their own destiny. In the crimson sunset that tinted the sky, Jessica sat silently on the staircase leading to the upper floors of the building, where the poignant memories of the past and present continuously intertwined. She said nothing, only letting her deep eyes follow each slow drifting cloud, as if reminding her that every event past has left an indelible mark. Amid that tranquil space, Jessica recalled the moments when her faith had been betrayed, yet at the same time felt the horrifying lesson that life had taught her. That faith, however precious, is easily wounded by the cuts of betrayal, and that only honesty and self-awareness are the keys that help one overcome losses. Every sigh, every gentle gesture of the wind seemed to bring her profound reflections on the value of loyalty, on friendship, whether those sacred relationships could overcome every challenge, or whether true forgiveness could heal the deep scars of the heart. She recalled the image of Amanda Stevens, the friend whom she had trusted unconditionally, and the figure of David Taylor, the elegant husband to whom she had given her complete faith. Those memories were like painful fragments, interwoven between sweet moments of happiness and cruel instances that seemed to tear her heart apart. In Jessica's mind, every promise, every smile, now remained only as scars that reminded her of an unforgettable past. But through every tear silently falling on her cheek, through every moment she pondered in loneliness, she gradually realized that, despite all the losses she had endured, it was self-awareness alone that helped her stand firm against the storms of life. In the darkness of the descending night, as the city lights shimmered like stars in the night sky, Jessica suddenly felt a small warmth inside, a fragile yet steadfast ray of hope. She recalled the lessons life had taught, that each person has the ability to choose their own path, and that no one is born to be forever a victim of fate. Even though she was betrayed, even though her heart had once been hurt to the point it seemed unhealable, deep down she knew that only self-awareness could guide her to the shores of freedom. The scars of her heart, even though not yet healed, just as the marks permanently etched on her skin, were evidence of the strength she once possessed and could reclaim to build a new self, a different Jessica, stronger, more self-reliant and appreciative of her own worth. Those reflections gradually made Jessica realize that faith is not something that can be preserved forever if it is not cared for and nurtured with honesty and self-awareness. In that moment, it was as if she heard the whisper of the past. Learn to forgive yourself. Let go of the burdens of betrayal so that your heart may welcome the light of tomorrow. She recalled the moments when her faith was built on sweet dreams and sincere love. And now, even knowing that those values had once been shattered, they still existed in every fragment of memory, in every crisp laugh of bygone recollections. Meanwhile, the scene around Jessica became even more sacred as the sunset gradually gave way to the darkness, and then to the sparkling light of the approaching dawn. Each ray of light seemed to carry a promise that, although there may be irreplaceable losses, there is always a new beginning for hearts that dare to dream. Jessica stood up, walking slowly yet steadily on the cold steps of the building, as if each step engraved her determination to never let her faith be forever subdued. She turned toward a new horizon, where faded dreams would be rekindled by the flame of self-mastery and reborn faith. The atmosphere within Jessica was filled with emotions blending the pain of the past with the hope of the future. She recalled the dark moments when everything seemed to have no escape, when her heart cried out amidst the storm of betrayal. But then, through each tear, she learned the lesson that only being honest with herself, only self-awareness can bring light to the soul. She promised herself that, no matter how many difficulties, no matter how many wounds remained unhealed, she would never let the past dictate her path. Each of her steps, though slow, was a living testament to the strength of perseverance, to the belief that ultimately, truth and justice would always prevail. When Jessica turned back to look at the past, she no longer saw herself as a victim of betrayals. Those who had once hurt her were now merely painful yet valuable lessons, helping her understand that to rebuild a fulfilling life, she must accept that faith, though vulnerable, also needs to be protected and nurtured by sincerity. She recalled every word of advice from loved ones, every counsel from those who had shared challenges with her, and all of them were like lights illuminating the path to freedom, to a life in which she could be self-reliant and happy in her own way. In that moment, Jessica felt as if she had been freed from the shackles of the past. She looked far towards the horizon, where the light of a new day was gradually dawning, as if opening a new chapter of life. She whispered to herself that, from now on, she would not allow anyone or any power to control her life. Jessica decided that no matter how many times she stumbled, she would always stand up and continue walking, for only then could she regain her self-belief and rebuild a life as she had always dreamed. The horrifying lesson that life had taught her was, faith, however precious, is easily wounded by betrayal. Honesty and self-awareness are the keys to overcoming incalculable losses. Those reflections not only resonated within her, but also served as a reminder to all who lived in the shadows of the past that forgiveness and self-reliance would help heal the deepest wounds of the heart. Amid the stillness of the late night, as the gentle wind blew through the trees, the whispers of the past seemed to call out to lost souls to return to themselves, to rediscover the light that had been lost due to the manipulation of fate. Jessica, after months filled with sorrow and ceaseless internal battles, had now found a way out for herself. She looked towards a new horizon with a fierce belief that life is not just a series of days passing by filled with losses, but rather a journey to rediscover oneself, a journey to overcome fate and build a future of freedom and happiness. The image of her standing there, amid the dim light of the early day, like a symbol of strength and courage, inspired all who had ever suffered the pain of betrayal. For those souls yearning to be free from the shackles of the past, every step Jessica took on the road to the future was an affirmation that, no matter how many difficulties or unhealed wounds there were, she was determined to live true to herself. She promised herself that no one could determine her destiny, and that only self-awareness, honesty, and perseverance could help her overcome every challenge. In the light of the new dawn, Jessica looked towards the distant horizon with the belief that, even if everything around became chaotic, the light of truth and justice would eventually shine forth, illuminating the path to true freedom. And so, in the sacred moment of the morning, amidst the gentle rustling of leaves by the wind and the soft light of dawn, Jessica walked with a light heart yet filled with determination. She did not need explanations, nor did anyone need to fully understand her pain. She only needed to be confident that in every tear, in every scar of the past, lay an invaluable lesson etched, a source of motivation for her to rebuild her life in her own way. Her silhouette, in that moment, shone brightly like an unquenchable flame, symbolizing reborn faith and unyielding self-mastery. In the silence of those deep reflections, the question that rose within Jessica, whether friendship could overcome all challenges, whether forgiveness could truly heal the wounds of the heart, was no longer something that troubled her, but rather became the impetus for her to move forward. And in the final moments of the journey, as the echoes of the past gradually faded under the light of a new day, Jessica realized that only self-awareness could help her rise. Only perseverance could help her reclaim herself. The teachings of life resonated in her mind like a solemn melody, inviting everyone to bravely face the past in order to open the door to the future. And in the light of the new day, with revived faith and self-reliance, Jessica continued on her own path, so that every witness, every silent soul would ask, could it be that faith and forgiveness are the keys that help us overcome every fate? And the answer, though still laden with uncertainties, was an invitation to open a complete future, a future in which everyone could freely choose their own destiny.